All right, Robert, it is Tuesday, December 5, 2023. And you know what might be more exciting than price, sales, inventory figures, all that sort of stuff?
New girls that work in the office.
Can I keep that on this episode? December 6, 2023 is the announcement of Bank of Canada of interest rates. And Robert,
Tomorrow,
that's
yeah.
tomorrow. I mean, could it be timing that the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board has released its stats on this episode of Real Estate Chat with coffee
Yonder Perez,
coffee drinking Robert Eid? We're,
indeed.
we're going to be
Wet the
talking
whistle.
about a lot of excitement because this is the time where we will see if all the chatter on Real Estate Chat from our viewers who have liked and subscribed and those joining us today who are going to decide by the end of this episode if they want to hear us continuing to chat about real estate is the interest rate announcements, but what it has to do with the actual stats. Robert, you put together these charts and stats, and we're going to go through it today. Why don't we just jump right into it, Robert? Because our Real Estate Chat viewers are wondering what's going to happen when the real estate market reflects on these stats and what the government of Canada or the Bank of Canada will do when it comes to interest rate announcements. Let's start with
let's start with what you just said, and then we'll go to this because everything that they're doing tomorrow is a rearview mirror. They're going to be looking at what they got from CREA, Canadian Real Estate Association, on the 15th of October. They don't know what happened in November. They're guessing. They're assuming they know what happens every year, and that's why they use seasonally adjusted numbers, which are virtually useless in a changing market. However, tomorrow, there's a lot of politics involved in this. The Federal Reserve is really setting the tone here. They don't report till the week after. So they're going to pause. Canada's going to pause, but they have to be careful because the last time they paused for too many weeks in a row, the still spec driven, which it's not anymore, still spec driven market of 2023 jumped into full gear saying, oh, a pause means it's a pivot. And I can remember you and me talking about those two words. They're going to start going down. And they jumped in with a vengeance, trying to pick up all the bargains. And it was the sucker's rally. That's what they called in the stock market, where this year, all those people that are stock market brain are out. We talk about the 5 groups. We can talk about it another time. The interest rate tomorrow, we'll see exactly what he does and exactly what he talks. He's talking out of both sides of his mouth on purpose because bad is good and good is bad. If he has technical reasons in the past, like 60 days ago, 30 days ago, to indicate that he should stop raising rates, that means it's bad news for everybody alive. If he sees good news for everybody alive, then he will raise rates because he said, I haven't beaten inflation yet. So bad is good. Benjamin Tal said it again. It was in the newspaper again. Bad news is good news if you want interest rates to go down. Everybody wants interest rates to go down. The thing is, what can we reasonably expect on interest rates? And then how will that affect? Because they're only going to take it down a quarter. It's going to take 2 years for it to come down 2 points. And we need 2 points desperately. So how will that affect prices? And then how will both rates and prices affect affordability? Because incomes aren't going to change. And will be reflected in our number of sales and our average price, which we look at every single month. So here we start.
Now, let's start with sales because sales is
what everybody looks at.
Yeah.
So I started this. I opened the. I knew it was coming. I opened at 6:30 this morning and saw that my estimates based on daily charting, both the Stratus, the old MLS system, and Realm, the new MLS system, that sales and number of listings existing in inventory are out of sync. Some by 5%, some by 10%, but they're out of sync. But I use the Stratus ones because that's the one I've been using all the way along. Anyway, so I see I'm 100 sales high. I thought it was going to be 43.50 or something rather like that. And it comes out at 42 and change. So why? I couldn't figure out why. So I went all over, when's my starting date? And this thing. I couldn't figure it out. But that was at 6:30 in the morning. So this reflects here that we've got the 24th best November out of 28 since 1996. because that's when I say the real estate market started again. That's the upcycle that we're still experiencing. So this dotted line shows us what the 10-year average. The 10-year average for November is 71.88. But we're only at 3,200. So that's why we're 41% below the average. We've been all the way along 40, 40, 30, 40, except for 1 month when we went up and we're only 20% below. So sales, diminished number of sales, diminished number of listings. There's still this balance. That's why prices aren't falling. So let's look at prices next.
Oh, before we do that,
Okay.
let's give some insider information that we can, because over the past couple of days, ever since the new Trust and Real Estate Services Act has been released, I've been getting a lot of calls, not only because of TRESA, but there have been sales being registered. So before we get to the next chart, Robert, what's your view in terms of where December? I know it's very early. It's only the 5th of December right now, but I'm getting phone calls about property selling, questions about property selling, questions about firming up deals.
Oh, okay. Good. Okay. Well, there's two different things. TRESA has got absolutely nothing to do with anything, because people will, in the real estate business, will make boo-boos and do it the old way until they run into a problem, and so they'll start learning the new way. Doesn't matter. Other people will be doing the new way, and customers, I saw an anecdote on Facebook where someone was given all of the information they're supposed to. Introduction to the customer, the 13-page guide, and the customer, who just wanted some information about a house on realtor.ca, for Pete's sake, was totally overwhelmed by this and said, no, never mind the showing, I'll find somebody else. And this happens when you try and do too good of a job to a customer that's not prepared. Until you appreciate the problem, this goes in all situations, you don't understand and appreciate the solution. So once the customer, which is the name I'm sorry, it's not customer.
Not even customer, yeah. It's not
consumer. I got the wrong word. I'm still not used to it. Consumer, which is just meeting you for the very first time, feels the advantages of the explanation. Before it was just a disclosure and a quick rundown. This is a complete exposure and understanding explanation, and then acknowledge that you understand. This is the possibilities that could happen in the near future. This is the benefits. These are the risks. Have you got any questions? Do you want to make a decision? Which is how this guide, 13 pages, works. We're not used to that. We'll get used to it. We'll find out a way of explaining it. You send it in advance, and who knows what we're going to find out. I went to a TREB meeting, Toronto Real Estate Board, with the registrar. Splendid fella who I thought was a bit of a stick in the mud, but he was telling jokes. He was doing great. He's the one that always wants to pronounce the word registrant the same way in French and English, because he's a French speaker. And so he pronounced it registrant all the time. And so that's his natural way. That's why he does it. Anybody who works for him thinks he's right, and so they follow him, but it's wrong. In English, it's registrant. So he was saying, look, can't write down everything. We just tried this. We got to introduce these new concepts. We're trying it. He's going to get used to it. And no doubt the ingenuity of the marketplace and in all you 96,000 Ontario registrants will come up with a best practice for handling, just like they're sort of evolved a best way for doing coming soon, and a best way to do multiple offers, and a best way to do bully offers or preemptive offers. A best practice evolves because there isn't one. So that's what we'll experience over the winter and over probably till the summer, when all these people who, like half the people that didn't open the MLS for a whole week at the beginning of, or in the middle of November to take the survey because they're busy doing something else and didn't need to have the MLS data for a whole week in their whole life. So how much involved in the real estate business? Until they finally get attracted to the information, forced to learn and start adapting. Mm-hmm. So is that an answer? It's got nothing to do with TRESA, but there are lots of power of sales. There are lots of people who are dumping their rental. They want to sell it in this year. Lots of things that are available 89 days on the market to be bought. Also, there are people that are pricing their houses right on the money, saying, come and get it. I was all prepared to go to Whitby on Saturday last. We saw it on Wednesday, booked the showing on Wednesday, on Thursday the next day, and on Friday they'd sold it full price to the first person who came along, but could close it in January. We couldn't have closed it on January. It's not for me, it's for my friend's friend. So yes, of course, there's always sales. And when people think it's dead, that's the time to buy.
Which is right now, because I mean, looking into December. So Robert.
Exactly. We'll see something very interesting when we get to inventory, because November, December, January, winter, 3 months ahead is snow. But are the slowest times for listings.
So
That's the tradition.
we're going to find out if this is the window of opportunity that we've been talking about over the past couple of episodes of Real Estate Chat. Let's jump into what the
Sure.
price looks like now.
Okay. Okay, so here we have this red line sort of moving along and doing a regular pattern. It's not as big as it was in the big boom. And it comes along to where we are finally now. We had a summer lull and a little bit now it's fallen off for the holiday season. So we put in perspective with this yellow thing at the top saying it's the highest November, second highest November, but only by 26%. You can see it right on top of 21. So that may change, or December may come along and say, and we're 26. I'm sorry, the next one is 93.02, so like almost 7% below where the highest November was, the maximum. And last year we're up almost the same, 26% of a year ago. Now the very peak, we're 81% of the very peak in February of 22. Now from the beginning of this year, we're still 4.5%, 4.19% higher than we were at the beginning of the year. So that's up. But we are slightly down from last month. We're down 389, or you call it 4% from a month. But that's the normal pattern. So we can't feel bad about that. But if you look at all those in the totality of those comparisons and look at this, you'll see that it's still the second, let's call it third, best price for November. Prices are resilient. Prices in real estate, residential, are sticky because it's not something you flip on the hour like a day trader in the stock. It takes a long time to sell. And you think carefully because you're living there before you put your property on the market. You think long and hard before you give away money. Am I better off to wait for 2 months? Will I get more in 2 months? Till finally you reach the point of decision, either exasperation, opportunity, whatever the reason that you have for selling comes and you say, okay, I'm going to sell it. And I know it's less than I could have got 18 months ago. I know it's less than I could have got this spring. I know it's more than I could have got a year ago. So I'm going to do it.
Fair to say that there is no bubble pop because some of our Real Estate Chat commenters calling for a 50% price drop. And when you look at the pattern here, it looks like, to me, I mean, it's, to use the overquoted term soft landing, it looks just like a soft landing because, I mean, you've got beaten up by the high interest rates the way they are. Tomorrow or December 6th, if you're watching this a week or two or a month from now, December 6th, we'll see no rate hike. You've heard it here first, or maybe not, but we've been talking about this for months now. There is no crash.
Okay, well, here's the key ingredient that it's very hard for people who aren't in the real estate business to appreciate. When they move the interest rates from 11.7% to 14%, it did not double the monthly payments of the consumer. When they moved the interest rate from, let's call it 1% to 5.5%, it did indeed double the monthly payments. So decisions that were being made at the 1% level and paying $4,147 a month that we could do. Now you move the interest rate up, you don't change the price. At $9,000 a month, the guy doesn't want to do it because the change, it's only 5%, it's only 4%. Yes, equal to the other time, but as a percentage gain, it's 500% interest gain. That's right. And the monthly payment, which is where the rubber hits the road in real estate, doubled. So we have not yet seen the bad times. That's my prediction.
Oh, so you still think it's coming? It could.
Well, I was wrong last year. I had a statistical something or other, and we had the suckers rally.
Okay, so never say never. I guess be cautious.
You cannot, because each year is different. I am not making every one of the 4,000 decisions to sell and to buy every month. I'm observing and saying what's similar, what's different, what could happen. Also, we do not know. Like I thought the world was going to come to the end in 2008. Who knew that the government of the United States was going to throw money like crazy, create it out of the trees, and quantitative easing, which would have got anybody hung in 1955, in 1965, in 1975. It now becomes standard policy. And of course, we're going to do that to stimulate the economy, right? It's madness. But now we're used to the madness. And now that's the madness, but we don't know what the wazirs are going to do next. That's even madder.
That's the thing about this time around, Robert, that, the resilience of this price, I guess we can't be overly cocky or overly arrogant about it, and say, it's just the fact that we don't know what's going to happen, even though there's a rate hike. What do you call it? Rate pause. Let's say the rates pause and
No increase, no,
no
just stays
increase.
neutral. But
So
you were quite
everybody's
right in saying that the resilience of the price does mean something. It
Mhm.
fell off from the very, very peak to 81%. So whatever that is, 18 and mostly 19%.
Yeah.
So that's an adjustment. Like in the stock market, they talk about 10% down as a correction.
That's a
20%
huge
down means
that's a
something.
huge one. 20% is huge.
Exactly. However, it was long and drips, and it was at the the whoosh. Everybody said, "Oh, it's too high here. It's too big." Oh, okay. Well, don't tell me it's going to keep on going,
Yeah.
because the vested interest. Nobody wants to lose money. So if there's 80% of the population, 50% of the population that owns a house in Toronto, if there's 60% of the people pay taxes, and in between there, they vote. They don't want anything bad to happen to their retirement because they just planned everything out with their advisor saying, well, your house is now worth 900,000.
Mm.
And so when you're now worth 750, that screws up your retirement plans. So they've got to be very careful in what they adjust and in what they fiddle with and in what they smooth out and in what they lie about for political reasons. When there's an election, you just have to really, really, really be careful of what you're listening to, because those spin doctors are smarter than you. You're
Oh,
just
hey,
listening. You believe them.
when's the election coming again, Robert? Can you remind me?
Well, in 25, he's got 5 years. That Jagmeet Singh's 5-year, 6-year entitlement for forever golden pension is in February of 25. He got in 19, so 6 years takes him to 25. Trudeau got in. He's got a 4-year mandate, which if he waits to the last little while, the prime time is going to be in the summer. It's going to be in 25.
Mm-hmm.
But in the American election in 24, that's going to be a real who hits the propeller, that thing. And ours will just be who's lying the worst. Like there's a lot of campaigning started, and we'll just have to grin and bear it.
And I think one of the things that our real estate chat viewers will stay tuned for is where we see the prices going into 2020.
We're getting there.
We're getting there. So wait for, well, I mean, we have our year-end episode and 2023 review as well.
We're getting there today.
Stay tuned for that. Today, give them a little bit today, but hold back the bulk of it so that they watch in a couple of weeks.
Okay, anyway, Dada. We wait, Dada.
All right, we dipped. Inventory has dipped. So this horrendous spike of inventory is now going. But again, this is no surprise because it's seasonal. Robert, what are your thoughts on this?
Okay. For some reason, I thought that instead of seeing 19,000 like we saw before, it was going to come down. A lot of people took the property off the market, terminated listings, and they were actually terminated. They said, screw it. We'll wait till next year to try it again. So I have it down as somewhere between 17,500 and 18,000, depending on when Realm or Stratus is your information source. But again, you can't fudge these numbers. They have something that says it was 16,759. Now, that is less than what it was, but way more than what it was normally for November. It's 27% more than the 10-year average, and it's 39% than the last 5 years. That's a lot. That's a lot. So if we see with the red in the bottom, December's and January's are historic annual low inventory points, we ain't doing that. We're going to be above average, not low. Like look at the last December down there in December 21. That's just above the word low. That's low. Okay, less than 5,000. But different market. So inventory is up. Now, why in the world would the board underreport inventory? I was puzzling through that, and the very same puzzle of why would they underreport sales? Gee whiz, it doesn't agree with either one of their information. Okay, I'll come up with a solution sometime. Okay, so that's inventory. There's plenty, except also, no, that's inventory. That's all of the listings on the very last day of the month. Down from where it was, but way up from where it should be.
All right, let's jump into active inventory versus number sold inventory, which...
Okay, so this changed, but it requires a lot of, like 6:30 till now. I didn't have enough time to do everything. So I calculated it, and it's on the last chart. We'll go back to the last chart for just half a second, John. See the yellow box on the right-hand side? At 4236 sales, the 16,759 is 3.96 months. So that's around 4. So when I saw that, I had the calculation there. When I went to go to the next slide now, I said, I can either do this all again, blah, 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 or just say it's nearly the same. So my November highlighted box there says 423. It's a little less than that because the sales were down a little bit from what we had projected. And the listings were down a little bit from what we had projected. So instead of being over 4, it's under 4, 396. But it's still, this 4% level is way more. Look at what that red line driving across there. You have to go all the way back to, I can't read whether it's September or June of 1990. Some people weren't born then, to come up with a months of inventory that exceeded 4. There was a time, you can see, when it got up to 8. And Ronnie Hoth provides us with a chart going back to when it went up to nearly 20 months, 18, 20 months of inventory. So this is, it's not a boom, but it's not a bust. It's just
okay. It's just
feeling its way.
Yeah. I mean, what do you expect? I mean, when you look at the resilience of the market caused by low rates, affordability, specs, all of that sort of stuff,
You got it.
everybody was eating up the inventory. So this
You got it.
this may be the normal. This may be the
Well,
normal.
we never had a COVID. We never had a lockdown. We never had, well, in 2008, we had 0% interest rates, but we never had 0% interest for a prolonged period of time with the stated intention of bailing out the economy because we didn't expect anything to happen when all the businesses were shut, all the restaurants were shut, and people were staying at home. So that's why they had low interest rates. But everybody and his brother who plans for the retirement or saw that there was a raging real estate boom going on said, you know what, at 2% money and 2% inflation, the money is free. I'm going to borrow as much as I can, and I'm going to put it into real estate.
They gobbled up. You all gobbled up the inventory, basically.
That's it. Well, they bid it up on these pre-spec things. The market starts at the bottom, right? So everybody goes for the cheapest thing they can find, a bungalow with a basement apartment down in E6, where it's real small, but it's a detached house with a basement apartment. It covers. So they bid it up. Sammy's into with 2 years, although it bid up. And the condos were another thing, because then you didn't have to pay the whole thing. You had to put your down payment down, but you could wait for 5 years before you had to worry about a tenant or reselling or whatever it's going to be. And maybe you're going to make money in the meantime. And the government wasn't paying very much attention to that. So you get it as a free money gain rather than a capital gain or rather than income. So it was a big monkey business that lasted for a long time, but then blew up.
There you go. Net new listings. What's the news? What's the story here?
Oh, okay. Well, net new listings is very interesting. That I had estimated, and it may be that I'm going to be high again, that there was going to be 5,000, which is a huge number, but a month before there was 4,600 of terminate and relist, which is a sales procedure that's done so that you get a stagnant list. You say, okay, well, I could do a price reduction, just put it through, but it might not. It won't create the same buzz as if I do a brand new listing. So if we terminate it today and put it through tomorrow, actually what happens is we'll terminate it today and then terminate it yesterday and put the new listing through today so that you don't have a chance to escape from my clutches with the new listing. So now it goes through its brand new thing. It gets a new number. The history disappears. And somebody from Mississauga that's showing the property in Pickering doesn't know beans is going to see that new listing on the hot sheets and say, here's a new one. Let's go and see that, Louise, because there's nothing for sale. And they say, Louise, look at this. It's brand new beauty. Look, come and see it. So they go and see it and they have 5 offers and so they sell it. But it's actually something that sat around for 6 months. Nobody wanted, gradually trickling down in price. Now, what's good, what's bad, doesn't matter. That's what happens. But if these new listings that are actually do-overs are not made mention of by the Toronto Real Estate Board, they make a chart. Starting in June of last year, they start making a chart and a comparison. An algorithm digs out which ones are the same property, same owner, same listing broker, relisted for the second time, or like relisted within the currency of the original listing, becomes characterized as a relist. And they chart them all down. You got it by every single district. You have 40 different ratios, and they call it a share. In this case, if you had 10,545 new listings in a month, and there was 5,000 duplicates, they would say that the share of duplicates, relists, was 47.42%. Well, that's half. That's a lot. But, it's the time of year and everything like that. But if you subtract the 5,000, again, it's an estimate, relist from the announced number, which is different every month, in this case, you get a net number of 5,545 net new listings. Now, the number of relists approximates 90% of the new listings. And the volume of listings, the amount that you have to pick from, is diminished by half. So if you then look at what that net number of listings compares to the average for the month is around 10,200. So the way the board reported at 10,545 is just 3% above that, and above 6% above the 5-year. Well, it's, there's more properties for sale, investors, and all kinds of things. It's up a little bit, but in actual fact, it's not. The number of new listings, if you were trying to buy a property because you got an inheritance from your grandma, now you got $250,000 burning a hole in your pocket, and you want to buy something for $850. Which, believe me, if you want to buy something nice for $850, you are not in 416. You maybe got a nice semi that needs work or something, but so you are looking at everything in that price class, and your area expands. You don't want to go to to Whitby, or you don't want to go to Georgina. You don't want to go to far Mississauga, and you look at everything. You find there's very, very, very few, because you say, oh, I saw that one last week. Oh, that's the same thing done over again. This is the conversation that we have with customers. They say, oh, I got the hot sheets, but they're all repeats. I've seen them all, blah, blah, blah. So this is the case. The number of listings is way, way, way down. In this case, it's half what they announced. Why would they do that? Why would they do that? Oh, you have the answer? Yes.
Do we have the answer?
We have the answer, and it was provided for us, which we'll have to deal with definitely, because we already spent a long time talking about the regular stats. The Financial Post has a daily column called Post Haste, and the Toronto-Dominion Bank printed a report that was mentioned in Post Haste, and it brought tears to my eyes, because it hit on exactly, without knowing why they hit on it, exactly what we've been harping on for 5 years. I've been harping on for 5 years with the Toronto Real Estate Board. And I've been talking about every month, and everybody's eyes glaze over when I talk about this read list. The implications of it and what it does to distort. So we'll talk about it, and we'll talk about it in what are we not seeing when we're seeing the Real Estate Board statistically. We trusted the Real Estate Board to give us accurate number of sales, accurate number of listings, accurate number of everything. If they over-reported sales by 30%, 40%, there would be a hue and cry of saying you can't do that. If they over-reported or under-reported the prices by 40%, 30%, there would be a hue and cry of saying you can't do that. You're deceiving the public. But somehow they can, let's say, disreport, because it is there, but a lot of members, they don't even know you have to go into that back extra menu and go and print it out, and it doesn't show up at the same time. You have to get it separately. It's sort of
hidden in there.
It's quiet. So we're going to deal with that next, of what's really happening, and is that the reason that our good friend from Post Haste, repeating what was said by our good friend Rishi Sandhi, can't quite figure out the real estate market right now.
Well, stay tuned for that, Real Estate Chat viewers, on the next episode of Real Estate Chat. Thanks for watching. Let us know what you think about this market update, and it's not too late. So by the time you're watching this, it's probably going to be the eve of the interest rate announcement by Bank of Canada. Rate up, down, pause. Let us know what you think. And if you have any questions for Robert as far as these stats are concerned, type into the chat. Stay tuned for the next episode. Take care, and bye for now.
See you later.